Hello guys, and welcome back to another class of our course about the complete introduction to VBA with Excel. So in the past class we talked about a few things that you guys can do with macros, and in today's class what we are going to learn is how to use macros in multitasking. So basically you create, instead of just having one step inside of your macro, we are going to practice the use of macros to be able to make more than one calculation. So basically what we are going to do to be able to do this is pretty simple. So what I'll suggest you guys to do is, first of all, just write down letters, so as I wrote right here. Then you can use the rand function, the random function, to be able to generate a random number between 1 and 30,000 like we did in the past class. And finally, we will have a random percentage that will be generated. And once again, this percentage will be between 0 and 1. So you can use the rand function to be able to do so. So let's say I have this database that I receive each and every day. And what I want to calculate is, what I want to have is, first of all, I want to have the percentage, like the real percentage. So here I want to have 78%, for example. And I want to have the amount of this percentage. Then I want to have the percentage that is left, and I want to have the amount of that percentage. So it sounds a little bit complicated, but we're going to do it together, and you'll see it's gonna be pretty simple. So all this will be stored inside of a macro. So instead of having to do all those steps each and every time, we will be able to do it by just using one macro. So it's gonna be pretty interesting what we are going to do. So take a few moments just to create your table so you can pause the video, and when you guys are done, we can start it out. All right, so pretty simple. What we're going to do at first is go into the developer tab, and what we want to do at first is pretty simple. We want to have this percentage right here. So we are going to name our cells at first. So here we will have first percentage, then we will have right here the first number, then percentage left, and number left. Great. So first of all, how exactly do we find the percent? So we'll start by recording the macro. So as always, we're going to use a relative reference because we want to be able to work with our macro everywhere. So really important, start by clicking on the case right here because this is where we are going to start. Then we're going to record our macro. So we'll call it, let's say, I don't know. So we'll call it practice. Here we go. So if you guys want to add a shortcut key, it's up to you. I'm not gonna do it. So just click on OK when it's all ready. All right, so first step, pretty simple. What we want to do at first is generate the percentage, so the real percentage. How exactly do we do this? Pretty simple. We're just going to click equal, and we want to have this number right here. So this is the first step. So when we have this number, next thing to do is simply click on the percentage. So here it was done automatically. So if it's not done automatically, for example, you have it as a general number, what we want to do is simply click on the percentage. Then next step is calculating the first number right there. So what exactly would be the first number? So pretty simple, just click on the equal button. And basically the first number is simply this percentage multiplied by this number right here. So this would be our full number. So we are just going to multiply this number, so this percentage, by this number right there. And here we go. So right now it's in percentage. We're just gonna put it into general. So basically 40% of this number will be this number right there. Next step is calculating the percentage left. So pretty simple. How exactly do we calculate this? It's simply going to be 1 minus this percentage. And finally, the last step is simply calculating the number that is left. So we can calculate it in two ways. So we can simply multiply this percentage by this number, or we can just subtract this number by this number. So you decide how you want to do it. I'm gonna go for a multiplication. So pretty simple. I'm gonna multiply this number by this number right there. All right, once again, really important to put it in general. So I have what I want right now. So basically I have my first number that is 29% of this number right here, and it's there. My second number is 71% of this number right here, and it's right there. So what I want to do right now is simply put everything in to this case. So those cases right there. Right, and when I'm all done, it's pretty simple. I can just stop the recording process. So I'll stop recording. All right, next step, what I want to do right now is simply generating it everywhere I need it. So let's say, for example, I want to have this macro. I want to generate this macro right there. So I'm going to go to my macros and just run my practice macro. As you can see, it works perfectly fine. And each time that I refresh the page, it will automatically refresh the answers. So as you can see, it's pretty simple to do and to understand. So same thing right here, and we can run it. And once again, if I try to run my macro, well, it works pretty fine. All right, so right now that you guys have did this, so as you can see, this is exactly how, well, it's possible to basically make a multi-step macro. It's possible to make a multi-calculations macro into just one macro. All right, what we can do right now is pretty simple. So I want to do another practice with you guys. And basically, we are going to use the if function to do so. So basically, we're going to do pretty much the same thing that we did in the past class. So what exactly we're going to do? So pretty simple. We're going to use those numbers right there. And what exactly we are going to do? We are going to add an if function to it. So we're simply going to write down, so if this number is greater than this number, we're going to return yes. If not, we're going to return no. So something that is pretty simple to do. So we'll try it out. So we'll just write down, right. So here we'll have our test. This would be the test tab. And here we are going to record our other macro. So first of all, we're going to use the relative reference on our test. And then we're going to record our macro. So pretty simple, we'll call it practice 2. All right, so let's do it. So pretty simple, we'll start our calculation by writing down the if function. And what exactly we want to, well, first thing inside of our if function will be the logical test. And here the logical test is pretty simple. We want to know if this number is greater than this number. So basically, if this number is greater than this number, we want Excel to return yes. Otherwise, we want Excel to return no. As you can see, it's pretty simple. And if we run it, it works pretty fine. So it's yes, because this number is greater than this number. So we have our macro that is ready and working fine. So we can try to run it pretty much anywhere we want. So we can, for example, go here and run our macro right there. And it's gonna be no. If we run it in a place where there is no test that has been done, it's gonna run anyways. So we can, for example, run it right here. And as you can see, it's gonna be no, because once again, it does the same calculation. So basically this number is not greater than this number because 0 is not greater than 0. So it works pretty fine. So finally, what exactly we can do is pretty simple. We can try to put those two macros together. So it's possible to use one, well, it's possible to have two macros to do it, but we can also put those two macros together. So this is exactly what we are going to do right now. So pretty simple. As I said, the first step will be simply calculating the percentage. Then we're going to find out the first numbers. So simply by multiplying this number by this number. Then we're going to calculate the percentage left, the number that is left. And finally, we'll do the logical test. So if you guys are ready, let's do it. So pretty simple. Let's go in our macro recorder. We are going to use a relative reference to do so. And we're going to record our macro. We'll call it final practice, and we can run it. All right, so as I said, first step is pretty simple. It's simply finding out the first number right there. So we want it to be equal to this one right here, this number right there. So it's gonna be 27%. It makes sense. Then second thing, we want to multiply our 27% by this number right there. So we are going to do so. So it will be equal to 27% multiplied by this number right here. Great, it works pretty fine. But we have one problem. Here it's in percentage, so we are going to put it in general. Then next step, calculating the percentage left. So pretty simple. How exactly we do this? It's gonna be 1 minus this percentage right here. And we can run it. And finally, the last step of the calculation will simply be calculating, well, basically calculating the number that is left. So we are going to multiply the 70% by this number right here. So pretty simple. It's gonna be equal to the 70% multiplied by this number right there. Great. And what we want to do now is simply put everything into general. Next, we are going to add those cases. So here we go. We have our cases right here. And finally, the last step is writing down our logical test. So we're going to go here and write down our logical test. So it's pretty simple. We're going to write down if, in this case, this number is greater than this number, we want to return yes. Otherwise, we want to return no. And then when it's all done, we can run our logical test, and we can even add this little thing right here. So right now we should have our full macro that is ready and should work pretty fine. So we'll stop the recording process and we will test our macro. So right now in our macro, what exactly do we have? We have our calculation right here, this calculation right there, this calculation, and finally the logical test. So this is exactly what we are going to do. We're going to run our macro. So as you can see, it works pretty fine. We can even test it. So as you can see, everything works perfectly. So right now what we have done is basically what we have in both cases. What we have done is we have used multi-steps to be able to achieve a certain task. But what I tried to show you in this class is pretty simple, is that you guys can basically put all this together inside of one macro. So it works pretty fine. So basically, let's say you guys want to use this macro somewhere right here. So I'm just gonna take all this table, copy it and paste it. I don't know, I'll paste it. Let's say I passed it right there. So I have my full database right here, and I want to generate my macro. So basically, this is exactly what I will do. I will generate my macro somewhere right here. Well, it's possible for me to do this. So pretty simple. I'll just go right here. I'll go inside of my macro, and I can run my macro. And as you can see, it works pretty fine. And basically, it's gonna use the numbers that are right there. So everything works perfectly. So as you can see, macros are something that is really, really useful. And right now we did an example that, well, maybe doesn't make that much sense because we just did some calculations, but you can apply this in your, well, in your everyday's life. And if you work in management or any other business field, you'll see it's really, really important. Well, the macros are really, really important, can be really, really useful. So that's it for this class, guys, and see you all in our next class.